No, I was looking for pages when we were in our meeting and then I was like,
All right, let's call this meeting order of March 25th, 2025, 6 p.m. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
the clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Wood,
Here.
Councilmember Richardson,
Present.
Councilmember Crossman,
Here.
Councilmember Kangeiser, here, Councilmember Hess,
Yeah.
Councilmember Palmer,
Here.
Councilmember Kaminsky, here, Mayor DePinto.
Here. Could we get an agenda approval?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second by Councilor Wood. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to special presentations. We have a proclamation today for Fair Housing Month, and we are joined by the Thurston County Realtors. Thank you for attending. City of Yelm Proclamation Fair Housing Month. Whereas the Fair Housing Act, enacted on April 11th, 1968, enshrined into federal law the goal of eliminating racial segregation and ending housing discrimination in the United States. And whereas the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing based on race, color, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, disability, and commits recipients of federal funding to affirmatively further fair housing in their communities. And whereas the city of Yelm is committed to the mission and intent of Congress to provide fair and equal housing opportunities for all. And whereas our social fabric, the economy, health, and environment are strengthened in diverse, inclusive communities. And whereas more than 50 years after the passage of the Fair Housing Act, discrimination persists, many communities remain segregated. And whereas acts of housing discrimination and barriers to equal housing opportunity are repugnant to a common sense of decency and fairness. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Joe DePinto, Mayor for the City of Yelm, do hereby proclaim April 2025 as Fair Housing Month in the City of Yelm as an inclusive community committed to fair housing and to promoting appropriate activities by private and public entities to provide and advocate for equal housing opportunities for all residents and prospective residents of the City of Yelm. Signed, the City of Yelm, Washington, this 25th day of March 2025. Mark, as president of the Thurston County Realtors, would you like to say anything? Sure. And then I will also present you here. Did you want to do a photo off after? Sure. Let's do that after.
Okay.
Why don't you have a speech?
Thank you, Mayor Joe and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. And for realtors, fair housing is very important to us. But to give you a brief history, actually, as a Realtors Association, we're actually what's not really for fair housing. Prior to 1968, our own code of ethics said that basically the property value was more important than giving the equal opportunity to all. And we kept that, and we actually campaigned against passing the fair housing law in 1968 as a Realtors Association. Of course, that's not the case right now. We are proponent of fair housing. I know that, in current political environment with people with the different spectrums of left, right, and middle and so forth, and we might have all different feeling and different thought about what DEI looks like for us in our country. But one thing for sure that I think all of us could agree is that everybody should have an equal opportunity to have a house or have a roof over our heads, regardless of which side you're on. And that's where we're concentrating as a Realtors Association is, that it's part of the American dream. Still, it's American dream, not just American dream. And a lot of the issues are based on the housing issues. As you know, in our state and everywhere else, a homeless issue is a housing issue. And there's a lot of issues that we talk about, but a lot have to do with that. Having a house, roof overhead is not just an American dream. I think it is a necessity and dream for everyone in this planet as well. So we really appreciate your opportunity to recognize Fair Housing Month, which is April for entire country, and as a city of Yelm, congratulate you and thank you very much for declaring a proclamation for a Fair Housing Month for City of April. And thank you very much for the opportunity, and I hope all of us together could continue to work towards fair housing, and hopefully in the future, we could make a unfair housing a history, not a present or the future. Thank you very much. Council, everybody. Further, we invade your council, then we'll go over here.
All right, please. What do you? Some of y'all can come over out here too.
Let me suck in a little one, lock everybody back in for the holidays still.
Here, shake hands. There we go.
Trying to get my.
Stand in the chair. Did you wear your heels?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hold you across the front.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you, everybody. You took our whole money.
Coming out to y'all.
I'll be meeting with Mayor Joe near future and talking what we could do, not just for fair housing, but any housing related items, what we could collaborate. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
All righty. Moving on to public comment. Do we have anyone just to?
Gene, any updates?
All righty. Moving on, anyone online?
We don't have any hands raised.
All right, moving on to consent agenda. We have the March 24, 25 study session minutes and the March 2025 check register and financial summary.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second by Councilmember Wood. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to new business. We have resolution number 653, Tahoma Ranch Development Agreement. Clayton, I believe this is you.
Yeah. Oh, we've been waiting for you.
Good evening, Clayton.
Mayor DePinto, council members, thanks for your time today. My name is Clayton Leby. I'm an associate planner at Public Services. And as I'm sure you saw, the development agreement for Tahoma Ranch, very long, it's about 160 pages. So I won't get bogged down in the minutia of the agreement, but I'll kind of spell out big picture what it means for not just the city, but for the developer. What that development agreement intends to achieve is providing some certainty for the developer on our development standards, our zoning and environmental law. So it basically states that they are vested to the current standards we have in place now. If we change laws in the future during site development, they will be subject to that. But the big picture for the city is that we'll get some assurance that as part of this mixed use development, the developers will build at least two of the 6 proposed commercial lots. And 2 of those 6 commercial lots will have to be fully developed and built out with buildings up, ready for tenants to move in before the city can issue certificates of occupancy for the final 4 of the residential buildings on the property. So we're just trying to avoid a situation where the developer comes in, builds the apartments, and then skips town before giving us any of that commercial development. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about it.
Councilmember Richardson.
So you're basically, this is really to lock in the guarantee of the commercial to be completed, is what this is about.
Yes, and specifically, we get a guarantee that 2 of those 6 commercial lots will be fully built out and ready for tenants. The other 4 of the 6 commercial lots, they'll come later, but it does give us a guarantee on 2 of those 6 at the very beginning before the residential can be completed.
Because you mentioned even with future law that might change, this is going to solidify an agreement now.
Yes.
Okay.
Councilmember Crossman.
I move to approve resolution 653.
Second.
The motion second. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Hess.
In reference to the commercial, you said 2 of the 6, and that that they have to be fully done, completed, and showing some kind of occupancy before you do for the 4 move-in ones. Is the 4 other ones that are not developed, are those apartments or are those going to also be commercial?
So What you're talking about is the city withholding the final four certificates of occupancy on 4 buildings. The proposal includes apartments and townhomes, so we withhold the certificates of occupancy on 2 apartment buildings and 2 of the townhome buildings. Before they'd have to have those 2 of the 6 commercial lots ready for tenants.
Okay, and do we have any idea what they're looking at in reference to commercial? The only reason I ask is because for one of the projects, they decide to go, hey, we're just gonna go ahead and make it all storage units, and that's called commercial. And that didn't really help us out with getting retail space for our Chamber of Commerce and future employers to fill. So do we know any idea of what these 2 or what they all are planning to be?
Yeah, nothing's locked in now, but on the preliminary site plans we've seen, they're shown as either being like quick service restaurants or retail space. It doesn't look like they're showing any proposed mini storage units, but it's not guaranteed what the uses would be. But it doesn't look like that's the direction they're going right now.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councilor Crossman.
More of a comment. What I really liked about this development agreement as compared to some of the other ones was the managed growth aspect. How we're really making it, how the developer is going to put in the job aspect with housing right next to it, and also the green space involved, and then the traffic aspect. If you guys looked at the whole couple hundred pages, it's very detailed. All that comes together to a nice little development package. So compared to some of the other ones, I thought it was pretty good. I like it. Be interested to see how it comes together. If we have to model, this is a model moving forward or not.
Councilor Palmer.
I'll just echo off of that. I appreciate the thorough packet. I mean, it was put out there in advance for everybody to look at. So I think you guys covered everything, and I really do appreciate that. And I just want the citizens to understand that, because we're going to hear about how, more apartments, more townhomes, roads, stuff like that. But we do have the Growth Management Act to deal with that the state legislature passed. So we have to grow to a certain extent. So we're going to do that as best we can.
And did they pass any traffic mitigation? Did they do any traffic studies or anything like that?
Yes, we spent a lot of time with traffic mitigation on this project. They are in fact going to go above and beyond our typical traffic facilities charges. They're going to be paying about, I want to say it's about $260,000 more than typical. And that's just because it's a big project. We looked for an opportunity to really help ensure that they're mitigating all of their impacts. So they're going to have some extra expense on their end for traffic facilities charges. And they're also going to be building a pedestrian connection to the high school right next door.
Other questions? Councilor Wood.
Just clarification, you did say 2 out of the 6 commercial properties were to be developed and ready for tenants, correct? It's not a requirement that they actually have tenants, just ready for tenants before they start developing the residential aspect of it, correct?
Prior to certificates of occupancy for the final 4 residential buildings, yes, those at least two of the 6 commercial buildings do need to be fully ready for tenants, but
Ready.
they don't need to have tenants identified. No.
Very good, thank you.
Other questions, comments? Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. Go into a roll call vote. Starting with Councilor Wood. How do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Richardson.
Yeah.
Councilor Crossman.
Yes.
Councilor Kingizer.
Aye.
Councilor Hess.
Aye.
Councilor Palmer.
Yes.
Councilor Kaminsky.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done, Clayton. Moving on to item B, is appointment of Christopher Lee to the Planning Commission. This would be to fill a seat that was vacated, how long ago? Kathy?
Roughly 3 weeks.
3 weeks ago. This is someone who's applied in the past, has military experience with command at JBLM, and I think would be a good member for this. Councilor Palmer.
I'll move to confirm Mayor DePinto's appointment of Christopher Lee to the Planning Commission.
I'll second that.
Councilor Wood, is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
1 nay. Councilor Crossman, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item C, 2025 Lodging Tax Advisory Committee Award Recommendations. Kathy, do you want to go ahead and just kind of brief the council on the schedule and how we did this?
So the city council approved $40,000 when, as part of the budget to be allocated for lodging tax funds. So we accept applications all year long. It's always open on our website, but in order to be considered for funding this year, they had to be turned in by March 1st. The lodging tax committee held a public meeting on March 4th and reviewed the applications. There were more, obviously, we received requests for a lot more than what we had budgeted for funds, so each organization were cut, that's, some. And have all of the applications and information. I'd answer any questions you have.
Councilor Palmer.
Move to approve the 2025 Lodging Tax Advisory Committee award recommendations, the amount of $40,000.
Second.
Second by Councilor Crossman. Any further discussion? Councilor Hess.
Looking over it, and I appreciate it. One of the things I'd like to recommend for next year is that these be presented to us during a study session, so that if we as a council want to adjust, we have that opportunity instead of right now trying to take up time, and we don't have the organizations in front of us to be able to question things like that. So that's my one concern. I'd like to see if we can make that change happen for next year.
Yeah, I think we could do that in the future.
Thank you.
Councilor,
Can
go ahead. Did you have a response to that, Kathy?
we can put them on, we can bring them to a study session definitely and talk about them more. The council has to either approve or reject the entire package. You cannot adjust. So you have to approve or reject it. And then if you reject the package, it would go back to the lodging tax advisory committee. And for at least 45 days, they would review it, make recommended changes and bring it forward. Having said that, the timeline for applications will be changed for next year's funding. We're going to open it up and be more in line with the other agencies in the county. We're going to do the application process in the fall. So
It'll be open up year.
Yes, but for 2026 funding, the applications will be submitted this fall. And so the applicants will know before the end of the year or very early on in 2026 if they're going to get funding, which will really help because we have several events in here now that are like right around the corner and they aren't confirmed for their funding. So we will be emailing and letting every applicant we'll go over like the last 5 years, anyone who's submitted an application. And then of course we'll advertise it and let people know, but we are going to change that.
I do want to say it, and Councilmember Crossman, did you want to add anything before I say something?
You pretty much answered. It was my understanding the LTAC is very specific. There's not a lot that we can move or adjust because of those specific requirements for LTAC funds. So you answered my question. I was going to just confirm.
The only thing I would say is there was about $80,000, $79,500 that was requested. Council had authorized and budgeted $40,000. So every one of these had to make significant cuts. And then that was probably the biggest thing that we were discussing at that meeting was how much we can cut each project. I don't know. I think there might've been one that got full funding. Was there any? No, I don't think any got actually full funding that was requested. But with that said, there has been motion, there's been second. Is there any further discussion? Let's do a roll call vote on this one. Councilor Wood, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Richardson?
Aye.
Councilor Crossman?
Aye.
Councilor Kingizer?
Aye.
Councilor Hess?
Aye.
Councilmember Palmer?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Alrighty, moving on to old business. We have none scheduled. Moving on to standing council committee reports, starting with the Public Safety Committee.
Meeting next week. Report.
Okay, moving on to the Public Services Committee.
Yeah, so we met today. First, Public Services got a big thank you for addressing the water issue in downtown here. Made it fix, even though it's DOT's problem. But we came through. We talked about the annexations that's coming forward that Thurston County wants to complete this year that they have proposed. So that will be coming before us later. We're still working on some things. We talked about the Yelm City Trail, acquiring it from Thurston County. There's a little back and forth with that. And so the Colt's gonna have some meetings with the commissioners there to get that all ironed out. Because it makes sense for us to take care of the trail, because we do a better job in Thurston County. I think, because I use the trail and I see the difference. You know, when you cross that line. And then May 17th is our big spring clean. If you guys been here a few years, you want to put that on your calendar. And what's new this year is we're opening it up to all of 98597. So if you have something to dump, bring it on down. The caveat is nothing hazardous and no typical daily garbage. So no food scraps, anything you throw in your typical garbage. It's mainly for those big items that, you know, people have a hard time getting rid of.
When senior pickup has the city limits.
You know, senior pickup, if you're a senior in city limits, get a hold and the city will come by and pick that up for you. If you cannot manage. And then we also got some new beauty barks spread around and all. If you've been out and about like I do, you see the beauty bark spread around, made all those little areas look really nice and presentable. So yeah, good job. Public Services, 2 thumbs up. And Lynn also did a run through what she has going on here within the next month.
Great. Counselor Wood, do you have a question for him?
Just a couple of questions. I was curious, do you have a tentative timeline on the annexation into the city?
That'd be perfect, Cody, because they would still, they're hoping this year.
But Counselor,
By the end of the year.
Yeah.
Something's going in May to the.
you want to give a quick timeline?
Yeah, so they're shooting for May to August. I'm just saying end of the year because we are working with county and things kind of get delayed. So they're shooting for May and August to bring it to the commissioners. There will be something to come to you guys after they approve it. So.
Counselor Hess?
Question I have for Councilman Crossen. In reference to spring cleaning, what helps fund that, if I remember correct, is through our water and sewer element, or Director Colt, can you answer? Because if I remember correct, that the reason why it used to always be you had to have the water sewer was because that came from part of that cleanup. And my concern is for the residents of Yelm proper, if everybody in the county portion all of a sudden shows up and fills up all the bins, the people in Yelm all of a sudden do not get to have that advantage that is for them. So what is our fix for that?
There's a rhyme and reason for all of it. Cody, you want to go ahead and explain?
So I'll start out. It's our franchise agreement with LeMay and the contract we have provides us with free dumpsters based on our population. So we're given X amount of dumpsters. It increased this year because our population increased. So I think we have 12 dumpsters total, and then during the middle of the event, they'll replace 3 of them. Which is great, but the issue is over the last 5 years, we've seen a decline from city people. I believe partially because of COVID was part of it. I think the other avenue is a lot of people, because we do this every year, have gotten rid of their big trash, so we don't have as many people coming. Last year, we sent back 4 empty dumpsters. So in order to try to see if we can maybe drive that, people dumping their stuff, and people in county and correctly, 98597 often will come to Yelm or maybe even dump stuff near Yelm. And so if we can have them dump it here and get rid of it ahead of time so it doesn't become a nicer on the side of the road, that's what we're shooting for. It's a trial year to try it. If we notice a lot of Yelm residents don't get to dump because of this, we can change it back. But based on what we've seen, we've had so much extra space that we think we can open it up to the 98597.
Counselor Palmer, did you have something?
He answered it. Thank you very much.
Counselor Richardson?
Again, too, if you're on the outside, so unincorporated Yelm 9597, you have to have some form of identification or mail.
Yeah, something that proves you live in 98597 is all we're going to ask for there. We'll have someone checking at the gate. And if you have a driver's license that says you are, we're not going to Google your address, but if it says Yelm, Washington, 98597, that's all we need, mail or a driver's license. So,
Counselor Crossman?
I would also add to that. We have a lot of houses that you would think in city limits, but they're not. So they technically won't be able to use those dumpsters otherwise, because there's a whole neighborhoods right across the street from me that are in county.
We're gonna fix that between May and August.
We are. We're gonna fix that. So this gives an opportunity for those people who you would think would be in city limits, but they're not, which is crazy to think that. And so they'll be able to use that service as well, because we have it. Doesn't cost us extra. We already have it in the, like Cody said, I was gonna bring that too. It's in the contract, and I've read that before, so.
Questions again, back to the Public Services Committee, Councilor Palmer, then Wood.
Perfect. So the annexation, were we able to push all the way to the canal yet, or are they still holding off on part of that?
There's sections where we're at the canal. Most of this was just, there's not a lot. So most of it's just showing up our borders. You guys, I'll have, if you need a map, I have one that we've worked on with the county over the course of the last 2.5 years.
I love maps.
Yeah, so it doesn't get everything, but it does shore our borders up. So there will be no more confusion driving down the street, be like, I'm in city, I'm in county. You'll know when you're in city and you know when you're in county. There's still more to annex in the future, but gets us in the right direction of at least shoring up our borders.
Councilor Wood.
Question about the beauty bark. Beauty bark does look fantastic. My concern is around the trees that are surrounded by the concrete, how they've mounded them all up. In a month, that's gonna be spread out everywhere. And I'm curious if there's a reason you guys do that, or if it was just it seemed like a good idea, but it seems like a better plan would be to try to figure out what will work as far as compacting and lower, because even, somebody coming through on a scooter hits that thing and, I mean,
Could you do a brief response and then maybe follow up with them afterwards?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things, we have to create mounds for those for safety reasons. If someone trips into a grate or a hole, it becomes a liability for the city. If we mound it and they hit it, it's obviously visible and they can't see it. So it kind of protects the city from a liability perspective, but we can talk more about it too.
very good. Thank you.
All right, anything else, Councilor Crossman?
Good.
All right, moving on to Finance Committee.
No meeting?
Moving on to General Government Committee.
We had a meeting just last hour. We actually got through our protocol manual update. And so we're in the process of creating a nice, clean, updated copy that we'll be reviewing soon, the red lines and then the full copy. So that is really exciting. We spent a good amount of time after that, just reviewing different agenda items coming up.
All right, moving on to Mayor City Minister staff reports. Todd.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Just a couple updates that Council didn't cover already. In the public services side, they're bringing on 3 new people April 1st. As a seasonal in the collections department and the streets department. In the PD, they're busy hiring as well. They've got 3 scheduled for the academy so far. Detective Sparkle will be resigning from the police department by the end of this month, taking a position with Thurston County. And their new flock cameras are in the process of getting permitted, and the polls will start going in soon for the additional flock cameras. And that's pretty much what I got.
Questions for Todd? Councilor Wood?
And you told Sparkle he could go.
Well,
Why would you do that, Todd?
there was some union issues with us telling him he couldn't go, but
I think if you'd have just firmly said no.
You just date him.
at least he'll be right down the road. We'll still, I'm sure, benefit from his services to the county. So
Doesn't he know we like him here? Come on now.
All right, moving on to my report. Been meeting with a lot of different stakeholders for the city, including the senior center, had a chat with them, talked to their members, went to Rosemont Assisted Living, chatted with their members. Enjoyed a steady meeting over in Tenino, their new facility they have down there, where the former owners have gathered, now bringing back what used to be Simply Organic. It used to be in Yelm, now they've moved. Wonderful location, great food still, recommend checking that out. That's the Tenino Ag Park, right, just on the edge of the city of Tenino. Yesterday, there was a couple budgets released. For us, it had impacts with the transportation budget. There's 2 proposals that are currently released in the Senate and in the House. The House version continues the timeline for the Yelm Loop as it is, with bids go for construction going out this year in the summer. The Senate version has it kicked out 6 more years. So we are fighting to maintain our current schedule. Representative Barkus has been a great partner on this. And so we're setting up meetings, we're chatting with different stakeholders for that as well, for the Senate chair as well as the House chair, which I'm meeting with tomorrow, and everyone else.
We should make the senators sit in that traffic. And then anytime I-5 shuts down, they're not allowed to come through here.
So one from the Senate proposal, their big thing is they're not starting new projects that haven't gone out to bid yet. That's been one of their big pushes. Not all projects, but the vast majority of projects that haven't gone out to bid are being delayed by 6 years. This is also an impact for our roundabouts as well. They've reduced funding for those and in both budgets. And so we are still fighting for all of it. We won't know here till another few weeks what the final budget looks like, but those obviously have significant impacts to the city of Yelm as well as the region. I'll be organizing letters from members from the Thurston County, Pierce County ourselves for roundabouts, and then the other mayors of Thurston County for our and the Nisqually tribe for our Yelm loop. Make sure we get full funding for that. So it's not done yet. We're still fighting for it, but just wanted to give an update on how it's looking right now.
We request Doge come here because this goes back to my 70% of 70 cents per dollar of DOT funds going to administrative costs and not road building.
Unfortunately, he does not have any authority over here, and so
Let's push for our own Doge then.
Yeah. Any other questions regarding that or the budget? All right, move. Councilor S.
Speaking of the budget, what are the projects that have been approved and still moving forward? And the reason why I ask is Highway 18, I-5, that was proposed years after our loop had been approved and everything taken care of, and they're working on it, getting it done, and yet they can't take care of our loop, which for 20 years now we've been sitting on it. It's gone out to bid once.
It hasn't gone out to bid the phase 2 yet.
Well, but the phase 1, and the only reason why they waited for phase 2 is they just didn't, they wanted to kind of do that. So I'm just curious on when you speak to them, if you could also make sure that looking at the budget to find out which DOT projects got approved, because my concern is I think they're going to where the majority of the votes are and not where issues really need to be handled.
There have been major projects in both Democrat and Republican districts that have been cut significantly. These are, like I said, most projects that are not have not gone out to bid are paused, or at least in the Senate proposal. And again, these are proposals, so they're not what the final budget will look like. The funding mechanisms in both are a little bit different, and it could easily be the House version, and that's what I'm going to be encouraging and making sure that we have full funding and that it continues on the trajectory that it currently is, in the timeline that it is, that says we'll go out to bid this summer. So we'll be working hard on that.
Appreciate it.
And while you're up there talking to them, if you have the opportunity to remind them that they did increase the fuel tax. They are looking at a mile per gallon tax. They are looking at $16 billion in new taxes for this legislative session. So I don't think they're hurting for money. I think they're hurting for management, but.
They would argue otherwise, but I'll probably not push them as I'm asking for money.
Right, yeah. Well,
but yeah,
that's why you get that job.
Yeah. Any other questions regarding that? I have an EDC meeting tomorrow, and looking forward to that. And yeah, lots of meetings, the legislature tomorrow, and bringing in Yelm up quite a bit. All right, moving on. Council member reports, starting with council member.
Okay, well, I zoomed into my law and justice meeting so that I could scooch over to the community center and attend the town hall with the commissioners and Marilyn Strickland. So that was a very nice evening with, I guess, almost everybody here was at that town hall, so it was great. And then I bypassed, I'm very sorry, my Nisqually River Council meeting, so there will be no salmon updates tonight. But I decided to go to the Innovation Center that you were talking about at their invitation at the chamber. We were invited by Myra Pena. So that was very interesting. It's a beautiful building. And the takeaway from the study group was that, oh my gosh, there's so much money and grants and funding and help that they provide over there and classes. So I think I'm going to sign myself up for something. And as for the innovation, like the building itself, I talked to Michael Cade after and I said, why didn't we get this in Yelm? And he said that they wanted to put that innovation center in Yelm, but the leaders of our day back then didn't want Yelm to be known as an agricultural center in any way. So I don't know why they would have said that. I don't know if that was short-sighted, but they want to keep it on the books that it's maybe something we can have. And it really reminds me of like a business maker space. That's basically what it is that we talked about for our own innovation center. So I'm kind of feeling it maybe for the 640 somewhere. Because after all, Seabrook has a whole community that's going to be based on maker space, like huge maker spaces. But anyway, so it was very interesting, and I hope that, well, he said they would keep the door open on that for us. So.
Councilor Palmer, do you have a question?
Yeah, I got a question for
for me?
So since they got agriculture, maybe we could do like the mechanical side of things. So we can do all the like blacksmithing and that
We
kind of
could do
stuff.
anything we want.
It's an idea.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
they take care of the ground, we take care of the infrastructure.
Well, yeah, but we already have the ground, like we already have,
We do, but we don't want to double dip that close to our neighbors.
no.
Not have the back end.
It'll be something different, something different.
Oh, thank you.
All righty.
Anyway, wait, is there anything else? And I just, when like thinking back to that time, it just reminds me how much we really have to be leaders and visionaries for our city for the future and not think small.
Absolutely.
That's my report.
Thank you. Councilor Palmer.
EMS is hiring, Medic One needs medics and all that good stuff, of course, so please apply.
Councilor Hess.
Intercity Transit is still working on their negotiations, which having sat through, listened to some of the comments and everything, I think our city did a really good job. So I want to commend the administration side of making sure that we were able to work with the unions within our city. Also attended the town hall with everybody up to the Congressional 10th District, Congresswoman Strickland, as well as Saturday's event with the Second Legislative District. Everything, it sounds nice. I recommend, as you put it, the letter writing campaign. If anybody happens to be out there, start contacting our senators and contacting our representatives, as well as don't be afraid to contact the governor and the head of the Washington State Department of Transportation. Get the information out there of how important this is, because if we can't get this done prior to them starting on the new Nisqually Bridge for I-5, we're looking at a bigger problem than we already have right now, because that's going to affect this community in a large way. So, I wish you luck, Mayor, on trying to get the budget to adhere to what they said they were going to do.
Thank you. Councilor Kingheiser.
We had our Dollars for Scholars had their wrap up for the auction meeting. I told you guys before the silent auction brought in 17,000. The total numbers are 115,000. So that's really quite a few scholarships. I was really excited to see that. So that scholarship process is underway just now. One thing that was especially noted was we saved a space for a special scholarship for Larry Shorno. And so that'll be a continual scholarship every year. It was really neat to hear how that just kind of all came together. The very first scholarship that they were able to deliver was one $100 scholarship. And now we're handing out thousands. So pretty cool. Very honored to be a part of that. That's been going for about 40 years, and we still actually have one of the gals, Mary Lou Clemens. You may know her through the senior center. She's still on our board and was part of that original group. So that was really neat. I got to attend community conversations, and that was really great to hear Rob talk about the goals with our SROs. Both Rob and Assistant Chief Atkins talked about the flock systems. There was a lot of roundabout conversations. You see what I did there? Just saying. It was great. That one was really fantastic. Actually, one of the few meetings that I've been to, that it was, I really feel that everybody got their turn to speak, and it was just a nice, relaxing atmosphere that everybody just got to come and be heard. I love seeing our administrators, but we also had Thurston County Commissioner Rachel Grant, who seems to be popping up just about everywhere in Yelm lately. So that's kind of nice to see that. Also went to town hall. I won't elaborate on that because everybody else already has. And then the St. Patrick's Day dinner at the senior center was absolutely fantastic. Bliss did the cooking, and they actually embarrassed me just a little and honored me as NVN's Person of the Year with a little planter and all of that. So our senior center people are pretty stinking fantastic, and they are absolutely appreciative of what the city and what our community does for them.
Thank you, absolutely. Councilor Crossman.
Okay, today we did video promo for the Yelm Spring Expo, April 26th, 27th. Hope you all come to that. Town Hall, I wanted to give like I said, I was there, but I want to give a special thanks to Yelm PD for keeping the peace. I sat in the back. I like to observe, and I saw them interacting with a few potential people. They kept it quiet and under wraps, so that was good to see. So nobody was aware, none the wiser. All you guys sitting up front. And then I attended the Rebuilding Together Thurston County breakfast, about 140 people. We attended. Sorry. Yelm was well represented, so that's always cool to see. The former mayor JW was MC. Tina was there. Masonry catered. So it was good eating. If you're unfamiliar with what Rebuilding Together does, is they fix homes for low income people that don't have a way to fix a home. They do a lot of wheelchair ramps, because when people get injured in the hospital and they come home, they can't get into the house. They don't have the funds, so they've done a lot of those. Last year they worked on 55 homes, and currently they are working on 45 homes at the moment, various stages of projects. But also learned that some new rules came into effect, and this affects all of those type of organizations. Is if you have to hire a contractor for specialty work that they can't get done by volunteer labor, they have to pay prevailing wage on those contracts. So it jacks the price up to fix a house tremendously, which I'm in that space, so I know how much that really hurts budgets when you try to help as much people we can, and all of a sudden your funding it's basically cutting your funding is one way. So they're in need, of course, of more money, and volunteer hours is a big thing because of that aspect. The newer rules that kicked in, and that's certain grants, community block grants, but they are expecting that to trickle into other grants as well for those organizations, and that's going to hurt a lot of help. And that's all I got for now.
Councilor Richardson.
All has been said.
French toast?
French toast was like that thick.
Oh, for sure you're going to say the French toast. I didn't say nothing.
It was good.
All righty. Councilor Wood.
I do have a report, but before that, I'm curious, did they give you any reasoning why they needed to do this? If you have to hire a contractor, you're required to pay prevailing wage in a situation where the community's trying to help out those that are in a less fortunate situation. I'm curious if they could tell you this with a straight face, why they needed to do that.
Councilor Crossman, would you like to respond?
As far as I know, there's certain grants has that requirement to them, and it's expanding out. It was a community development block grant is the specific one. And then the USDA grants will probably be next, they suggest, and it comes from, of course, above them. They're just an organization trying to help, and I have my ideas of where it came from, but.
Councilor Palmer, did you have something to add?
Yeah, so that stemmed from, I was reading about this a while ago. So that stemmed from, they were trying to get like lowest bidders, but then they ended up getting shoddy work. So they made it prevailing wage to get better contractors into these situations.
Councilor Wood, please continue with your.
I also attended the town hall meeting. And I had a transportation policy board meeting, and we had a presentation from Intercity Transit on all the wonderful things they're spending all of our tax money on.
All righty, thank you. There is no executive session scheduled. Take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second? Second by Councilor Crossman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.